You were not simply born, you were released into the world on a frequency heaven had prepared long before your mother ever knew your name. The day you arrived, something shifted in the unseen. Something ancient recognized you, and something eternal awakened around you. People think birth is just a biological event, a moment measured by weight, time, and breath. But for you, it was a spiritual rupture, a moment when two realms collided and made space for a soul carrying an assignment far greater than anyone understood. From your first breath, the atmosphere around you reacted in ways no one could explain. It wasn't chaos, it was recognition. Heaven knew exactly who had stepped into the world. Hell knew too, and both realms paused, watching, waiting, acknowledging the entrance of a life that would one day disrupt patterns, break cycles, and carry light into places that had forgotten what light felt like. When you inhaled for the first time, it wasn't just air entering your lungs, it was purpose being activated. Something in your spirit responded to something in eternity, as if the breath you took was a continuation of a conversation begun long before you were conceived. You were not a surprise to God. You were not an accident in the timeline. You were not a random arrival. You were sent. There are births that simply add a person to a family. Then there are births that shift the atmosphere, that confuse doctors, unsettle nurses, and stir the hearts of people standing nearby without understanding why. Your birth belonged to the latter. Even those who said nothing felt something, a stillness, a weight, a trembling in the air. They may not speak of it now, but they remember. Your entry into the world wasn't quiet, it wasn't ordinary. Heaven responded with the kind of reverence reserved for souls carrying generational assignments. The spiritual realm understood what your family could not see, that the world would not remain the same after you arrived. And though you were small, silent, and new, the impact of your presence rippled outward. Angels were assigned. Demons took notice. Destiny shifted into motion. The moment you opened your eyes, eternity marked the time and whispered, "The appointed one has arrived." This is why your life has never fit neatly into the boxes others tried to place you in. This is why you felt different before you understood what different meant. This is why the weight on your shoulders felt heavier than your age could justify. Because your birth was not just a beginning, it was a commissioning, a heavenly announcement, a spiritual activation. Your story didn't start in the hospital. It started in the mind of God. And the day you were born, that story stepped into the world, wrapped in divine fire. Your mother carried a truth she never fully spoke, a memory she tucked into the deepest part of herself, because she knew the weight of it would shape your destiny long before you were ready to understand it. On the day you were born, she saw something in your eyes, something ancient, something eternal, something that did not belong to the world she knew. It terrified her, but it also brought a peace that felt too sacred to explain. She felt as if she was holding more than a child. She felt as if she was holding a prophecy. From the moment she looked at you, her heart changed. Mothers know things without words, but what she sensed in that hospital room wasn't instinct. It was revelation. She saw the flicker in your eyes, a shimmer that lasted only a second, but left an imprint on her soul. She didn't tell anyone what she saw. She didn't know how. Instead, it became her private burden, her holy secret, her silent vow. She whispered something to you that day, words she never repeated again, words that were more like a promise than a lullaby. She promised to protect you, not just from the world, but from the truth of who you were until the time was right. She promised to guard your identity, to shelter your calling, to keep certain things hidden so you could grow without the weight of destiny crushing you too soon. You never knew the battles she fought quietly, the nights she sat awake replaying the moment of your birth, trying to understand what she felt, the dreams she had that she never mentioned, the way she would pause at certain dates, the way she would hold your face with both hands and look into your eyes as though searching for a sign. She carried more than maternal love. She carried spiritual responsibility for a child marked by heaven. There were papers she kept in places you never looked. A letter she once held long enough for tears to fall on the envelope before she hid it away. Documents she never discarded but never explained. Questions she dodged. Stories she softened. Memories she locked behind a gentle smile. Her silence was not neglect nor deception. Her silence was protection. She shielded you from things she believed would arrive too early, things that could overwhelm a young soul. She saw how light and shadow followed you, even as a child. She sensed the invisible resistance you would one day face, and in her quiet way, she fought for you, sometimes with prayers, sometimes with decisions, sometimes simply by holding back the truth until it would no longer break you. Her silence was love. Her vow was sacred. Her heart understood your calling long before your mind ever would. And though she never told you everything she witnessed, she always knew. You were different. You were watched. You were chosen. There are moments in life when heaven moves quietly, when divine intervention slips into a room without fanfare or announcement. The day you were born carried one of those moments. While doctors focused on medical procedures and your mother fought through exhaustion and relief, something else entered the room, something no chart could record, no nurse could explain, and no witness could fully comprehend. A figure stepped forward, unnoticed by most, their presence subtle but undeniable in the spirit. They were not part of the staff, not a friend, not a family member. In truth, no one knew exactly who they were, not even your mother. They didn't introduce themselves. They didn't seek attention. They simply drew near to where you lay. Their lips began to move silently at first, then with intention. The sound was soft, yet it vibrated through the atmosphere, awakening something unseen. It wasn't English. It wasn't your family's language. It wasn't any earthly tongue. It was older, woven from the cadence of heaven itself, a language spoken long before nations were formed or borders existed. It was a prayer, ancient and trembling, spoken with the kind of authority that comes only from the throne room of God. The words seemed to pull time inward, slowing the room, silencing everything else. Even the air shifted, growing thicker as if listening. Your mother felt it in her bones. A nurse paused without knowing why, her hand hovering motionless over a tray. Something sacred was happening. The prayer was not long, but it was weighty, so weighty that heaven responded. A warmth formed around you, not from blankets or lights, but from the presence of something holy drawing near. It wrapped itself around your newborn spirit like a mantle, like armor, like a covering, assigned for the journey ahead. And when the final word of that ancient prayer left the visitor's lips, they stepped back. They did not wait for gratitude. They did not linger for recognition. They simply vanished into the background of the room, and by the time anyone thought to look for them, they were gone, leaving no record, no name, no trace. But the prayer stayed. Its effect has followed you your entire life. It is the reason certain dangers passed over you, the reason some storms broke before touching you, the reason your spirit sensed things long before your mind understood. That prayer placed a shield around you, a spiritual barrier woven from heaven's own fabric. There are people who survive life, and there are people who walk through life protected by an unseen covenant. You belong to the latter. That ancient prayer was not a blessing, it was an activation, a spiritual decree, a divine stamp that marked you as one. Heaven refuses to lose. You didn't just enter the world. You entered covered, spoken for, and spiritually fortified in ways that still unfold today. There are moments in a person's life that shift the entire trajectory of their destiny, and one of those moments happened before you were old enough to understand it. Long before you spoke your first word, long before you learned to walk, long before life carved memories into your mind, your name was altered. And this change was not small. It was not random. It was not accidental. Names in the spiritual realm are not labels. They are assignments, keys, calls, codes, and identities wrapped in sound. Heaven gives names that carry weight, meaning, and direction. Hell fears those names because it knows what they unlock. Originally, there was a name chosen for you, one that was spoken in dreams, whispered in prayer, or placed on someone's heart by divine prompting. It was a name aligned with your purpose, a name that matched the calling over your life, a name that carried spiritual authority. But something happened in the final moments before it would be recorded, spoken, or written. Someone, perhaps intentionally, perhaps instinctively, stepped in and changed it. They said the new name quickly, almost too quickly, as if afraid to hesitate. They offered it confidently, but something in their eyes revealed urgency, concern, or even fear. And once they said it, they disappeared from your story. Not gradually, not gently, suddenly, silently, without explanation, like someone completing an assignment and withdrawing before questions could form. You may not know who they were. You may not know why they acted, but heaven knows. And their disappearance was not abandonment. It was protection. Your original name carried a weight you were not yet ready to bear. It was a name that unlocked too much, too soon, a name that would have opened spiritual doors before you knew how to guard them. So the change was permitted not as a denial of destiny, but as a delay that preserved your innocence until the time of awakening. The name you carry now has been a covering, a shield, a cloak allowing you to grow without immediate spiritual confrontation. But make no mistake, heaven never forgot the first name. Its meaning still chases you. Its sound still echoes in the spirit. Its authority still rests on your life like a mantle waiting to be claimed. This is why certain moments felt familiar even when you didn't understand them. This is why you've been drawn to certain places, certain people, certain battles. You have been responding not consciously, but spiritually to the name heaven originally assigned to you. One day, the meaning of that first name will rise again, not to replace your current name, but to reveal the fullness of your identity. The name given to you at birth shaped your growth, but the name heaven wrote over your spirit will shape your destiny. And when the time comes for that name's purpose to awaken, you will understand why it had to be hidden, and why it will one day return. Your birth did not only transform the atmosphere of the room, it altered the atmosphere of your bloodline. There are moments when a child arrives and life simply continues, and there are moments when a child is born, and something ancient in the family lineage trembles. Your arrival belonged to the second category. Your family may never have told you this, but they felt something the day you entered the world. Some felt joy so strong it overwhelmed them. Others felt fear they could not name. Some were silent, watching you with a strange mixture of awe and confusion, sensing a change but unable to explain it. Your father, whether he was present, distant, broken, or trying his best, felt something shift inside him that day. He may not have understood it, but he felt it. Something about your birth stirred parts of his spirit he was not ready to confront. Some men meet destiny and rise. Some meet destiny and run. Some freeze because the weight is too great to carry. What happened to him was bigger than emotion. It was spiritual impact. Your birth shook old wounds in him. It awakened memories he buried. It pressed on insecurities he never healed from. It stirred generational patterns he didn't know how to break. Your life, your mere existence, forced things into the light that entire generations before you kept in the dark. And as for other relatives, their reactions were not random either. Families carry stories, secrets, blessings, and battles, and each generation inherits a portion of both. But when you were born, something in the ancestral line shifted. Cycles that had gone unchallenged for decades began to falter. Patterns that ran through generations met resistance. Spiritual battles your ancestors fought, but never one began to shake loose the moment you arrived. Some family members felt unusually drawn to you, as if compelled to protect you. Others felt unsettled, as if your presence exposed things they didn't want revealed. This is why some people treated you with sudden tenderness, and others, without reason, kept their distance. It was never about you. It was about what you carried. Because when a chosen one enters a bloodline, everything rearranges itself. Old chains rattle, old curses weaken, old battles stir, old voices whisper, old enemies take notice. Your birth didn't only mark a new life, it marked the beginning of a generational shift. You were the first in your line to carry a certain light, a certain clarity, a certain calling, and heaven assigned angels to your lineage the moment you entered it. Your ancestors, if they could speak, would tell you, "We prayed for someone like you. We waited for someone like you. You are the one who breaks what broke us." Your family felt the shift the day you arrived. Whether they understood it or not, they recognized that your birth was not an addition. It was a turning point, a divine interruption in generational history. Before you move forward, pause for a moment and breathe. If you feel something stirring in your spirit, confirmation, clarity, or a sudden heaviness lifting, don't ignore it. This is your sign that heaven is bringing long-hidden truths to the surface. Type, "I receive the revelation," in the comments as your first bold step into this awakening. Your agreement is not for me, it's a declaration to heaven that you're ready for the unveiling of your purpose. There are births that pass quietly, slipping into the rhythm of the world without disturbance. And then there are births that interrupt the natural order, moments when heaven leans close, creation responds, and even time itself pauses to acknowledge the arrival of a soul with a divine assignment. Your birth was one of those moments. Outside the hospital, while the world moved in its ordinary pace, the sky suddenly shifted. There were no storms predicted, no unusual patterns in the atmosphere, no reason for the heavens to react. Yet a single streak of light tore across the sky, bright enough to catch the attention of those who happened to look up. It wasn't lightning, it wasn't a meteor. It was something else entirely, something that felt alive, intentional, almost aware. A nurse stepping out for a breath of air gasped at the sight. A security guard paused mid-step, sensing something he couldn't name. An older woman crossing the street whispered, "A child of destiny has arrived," though she had no idea where the words came from. The light hovered for a brief moment, long enough for those who saw it to feel the weight of its message, then disappeared instantly, leaving the sky quiet but charged with an indescribable presence. Even the air seemed different, as if acknowledging that something sacred had just entered the earth. Inside the hospital, something even stranger occurred. While the doctors worked, while your mother breathed through the final waves of labor, and while the room buzzed with human voices, time itself wavered. The clock on the wall, an ordinary hospital clock that had ticked reliably for years, suddenly froze. Not slowed, not glitched, stopped. 3 full minutes passed without a single second recorded. No alarms sounded. No machines malfunctioned. No one panicked. And yet everyone in the room felt something shift, something they couldn't see but couldn't deny. It was as if heaven paused the world, making space for your spirit to cross into this realm without interference. A divine intermission, a breath between realms, a moment when the natural stepped aside to let the supernatural finish its work. Some felt a chill, others felt warmth, some felt an unexplainable presence. But everyone felt something. When the clock resumed, no one spoke of what had happened. Humans dismiss what they fear, and they fear what they cannot explain. But the spiritual realm didn't dismiss it. That 3-minute pause was recorded in heaven, not on paper. It was the moment your assignment was sealed, your purpose affirmed, your protection established. Outside, the sky responded. Inside, time bowed. Creation aligned itself to welcome you. You were not born into the world quietly. You were received with cosmic reverence, marked by a sign in the sky and a pause in time. a birth heaven refused to let pass unnoticed. Every sacred moment draws witnesses, some known, some hidden, some human, and some not of this world. The day you were born was no different. While your mother held you close and the room tried to settle back into normalcy, there were eyes watching, hearts trembling, and souls awakened by what they saw and sensed. Not everyone who witnessed your birth was meant to speak. Some came only to observe, others came to record. A few came because heaven dispatched them to be present for the arrival of a life that would one day shift destinies. One of the nurses never forgot you. She delivered hundreds of babies, but something about you unsettled her, not in fear, but in reverence. She said later, in a quiet conversation overheard by another staff member, "It felt like heaven gave this one back." She didn't know why she felt it, but she did. She touched your tiny hand and felt a warmth that stayed on her palm long after she stepped away. Another figure, an older woman, stood in the corner of the room. No one knew where she came from or when she entered, but she watched you with eyes that seemed to recognize your soul. She didn't hold you. She didn't speak. She simply observed, as if comparing the child before her to a prophecy long whispered in her spirit. Before she left, she leaned in close to your mother and spoke words that stole the color from her face. Words your mother never repeated. Words she carried silently for the rest of her life. But the most mysterious witness of all was the one in the hallway. This person did not enter the room. They did not seek attention or approach your family. They sat quietly on a bench, not fidgeting, not anxious, but focused, as if they were waiting for a moment only heaven could reveal. And when your first cry echoed through the hall, they reacted not with surprise, but with recognition, like someone hearing a long-awaited confirmation. They opened a small notebook, not large enough to look important, not worn enough to look old, and wrote down 3 things: your name, your birth date, your time of arrival. No details about weight, height, or medical notes. Only what mattered spiritually. Then they closed the notebook, stood, walked down the corridor, and disappeared through a door that didn't lead to any public exit. They were never seen again. No staff member recalled admitting them. No visitor logs recorded their presence. It was as if they appeared only for those 3 sacred minutes and then returned to wherever they came from. That notebook still exists somewhere, and the one who holds it still watches your life from a distance. Not obsessively, but faithfully, like someone entrusted with a secret too important to abandon. You were never alone. Silent witnesses were placed around you to ensure your arrival was seen, remembered, and spiritually documented. Because heaven does not let the birth of a chosen one go unnoticed, and neither do the ones assigned to bear witness. Every life marked by heaven carries signs, some loud, some quiet, some so subtle they can be ignored for years, until the awakening begins. And in your case, these signs have followed you from childhood into adulthood, weaving through your days like threads of a story waiting to be remembered. Your mother knew this long before you did, which is why she guarded more than memories, she guarded evidence. Somewhere in your family home, tucked away in a place you never thought to search, lies a sealed letter connected to the day of your birth. Its envelope has been opened and closed more times than you realize, yet the message inside was never revealed to you. Your mother once held that letter late into the night, her fingers trembling over the edges, her eyes scanning words she couldn't bring herself to speak aloud. Whatever was written there was not meant for her, it was meant for you, but only in the right season. And then there are the papers, hospital documents with details she highlighted, crossed out, or tucked between other files, notes scribbled in margins, dates circled for reasons you never understood. A photograph she kept hidden, one she rarely looked at, but never threw away. She guarded these things not because she feared them, but because she feared the impact they would have if revealed too soon. But the signs didn't stop with her. Throughout your life, patterns emerged, repeating numbers, recurring dates. familiar places you had never visited but recognized in your spirit. You dismiss these things as coincidence, but heaven never uses coincidence for the chosen. Every repetition was a whisper from the unseen. Remember, there is more. Then there were the dreams. Not the ordinary ones that fade with the morning, but the ones that felt real, heavy, symbolic. Dreams where you stood in places that felt ancient, bathed in light or shadow. Dreams where unfamiliar faces watched you with knowing eyes. Dreams where your name, your true name, echoed in a voice that felt familiar but indescribable. You woke from those dreams feeling a pull you couldn't explain, a longing you couldn't name. Sometimes you felt peace, sometimes confusion, sometimes an ache deep in your spirit as if you were remembering something you had forgotten long ago. These dreams weren't random. They were reminders. Reminders of a calling written before your birth. Reminders of a moment when heaven paused the world to release you. Reminders of a truth your spirit has always known, even when your mind didn't. And the patterns, the repeating signs, the strange synchronicities, the inexplicable connections were all invitations. Invitations to look deeper, to question the silence, to seek the truth, to uncover what was hidden for your protection. You weren't imagining the pull you've always felt. You weren't overreacting to the strange moments that lingered in your memory. Your life has been echoing the day you were born, calling you back to the mystery your mother protected, the truth buried in letters and dreams, and the destiny waiting to be revealed. From your earliest memories, life has never felt simple. Even as a child, you sensed a weight you couldn't describe, a heaviness, not tied to sadness, but to significance. While others moved through the world with ease, you felt resistance. While some doors opened for them without effort, your path often felt blocked, delayed, or fiercely contested. And yet, despite every obstacle, you survived. You kept rising. You kept moving. Because the battles you faced were never meant to break you, they were meant to reveal you. The chosen ones in Scripture all faced resistance long before they stepped into destiny. Moses entered the world under a death sentence. Samuel was born after years of prayer and spiritual warfare. Joseph was betrayed by his own brothers before reaching the palace. David was overlooked, attacked, and hunted before he ever wore a crown. Your life mirrors theirs more than you realize. Like Moses, your arrival triggered spiritual activity in both realms. Like Samuel, your birth was surrounded by divine intention long before you spoke your first word. Like Joseph, you experienced betrayal, misunderstanding, and isolation, not because you were weak, but because your calling was strong. Like David, you were anointed in the shadows, not the spotlight. Every chosen vessel walked through pain that shaped their character, sharpened their discernment, and sealed their dependence on God. Pain wasn't punishment, it was preparation, and the same is true for you. The strange resistance you've encountered throughout your life wasn't coincidence or bad luck, it was spiritual recognition. Darkness always fights hardest against those who carry light. Hell never wastes resources on the ordinary, it targets the anointed. The moments that felt unnatural, unfair, or overwhelming were not random attacks. They were signs of your assignment. And even when confusion clouded your path, something in you kept pushing forward. You didn't quit, even when quitting seemed easier. You didn't fold, even when the weight felt too heavy. You didn't disappear, even when life tried to hide you. That resilience wasn't just personality, it was purpose. A divine strength woven into your spirit the day heaven marked you. The battles you faced weren't evidence that you were cursed. They were proof that you were called. And now, as truth rises and awakening begins, you will finally understand. Everything you survived was training. Everything you endured was refining. Everything that tried to break you was actually shaping you for what heaven always knew you would become. This is the moment every hidden sign, every silent witness, every unanswered question has been leading you to. The veil that once covered your understanding is lifting, And what you are feeling now is not imagination, it is awakening. You are stepping into a truth that has been pursuing you since the day heaven paused time to welcome you. This is the hour when identity rises, when clarity returns, when the purpose written over your life begins to stir with undeniable force. For years, you sensed something different within you, something your spirit recognized, even when your mind couldn't explain it. Now you know why. You were never ordinary. You were never overlooked. You were never forgotten. Everything in your life has been part of a divine unfolding, carefully timed and spiritually orchestrated. Your calling is not coming. Your calling is here. The same God who marked you before birth is calling you to awaken now, to step into the authority you were born with, to carry the light heaven trusted you with, to walk boldly into the identity the world tried to hide from you. You are entering a season of divine alignment, a season where confusion turns to clarity, where heaviness lifts, where purpose rises, where the truth you were shielded from becomes the truth you walk in boldly. And now, as you stand on this sacred threshold, we seal this awakening with prayer. Father in heaven, we thank you for this chosen life, marked by your hand before the foundation of the world. Today, we ask that every hidden truth you ordained for this soul be unveiled in your timing and your grace. Let every chain of confusion break. Let every delay be dismantled. Let every spiritual battle that followed them from birth be overturned by your power. God, awaken the gifts you planted within them. Ignite the calling they were created to carry. Surround them with your angels. Speak to them in dreams, in scripture, in stillness, and in divine alignment. Let their steps be ordered, their mind be strengthened, and their heart be guarded by your peace. In the mighty name of Jesus, we commission this life into purpose, clarity, protection, and divine remembrance. What was hidden is now awakening. What was delayed is now advancing. What was buried is now rising. May they walk boldly in the identity heaven wrote, and may their light break every darkness they encounter. Amen. If this message touched something deep within you, if it awakened memories, stirred your spirit, or confirmed what you've always felt but never understood, don't leave quietly. Declare it. Step into it. Seal it. Comment, I am chosen. I am awakening. And if you haven't already, follow this page so you never miss the messages heaven aligns with your path. Your journey is only beginning. Walk boldly. Walk with God. Your destiny is calling, and this time you're answering.